Something interesting happened in my practice recently. Two of my clients, both in their mid 50s, both working hard to build their retirement, their adult kids called me. Same question, two different phone calls. Jerry, I started my first real job. I've got a 401k, I want to open a Roth IRA, and I have no idea what to do first. That question is exactly what this video is about. By the end of this video, you're going to know the suggested order to invest your money when you're in your 20s, step 1 through step 4, so you don't waste a single dollar or miss out on years of potential growth. I'm Jerry Bulaclac, financial advisor at Radiant Vest and a fiduciary, which means I'm legally required to put your interests first. I've been working with pre-retirees since 2005, and what I've generally seen is that the families who tend to build real wealth have one thing in common. They got the order right early. Keep in mind, everyone's situation is different, but this is a good starting point. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. I'm just starting out. I don't make enough money to worry about investing. I hear that. But here's what the research tends to show. The cost of waiting even 5 years in your 20s may be larger than most people realize. Time may be the single greatest financial asset you'll ever have. And right now, you've got more of it than anyone. What I've generally seen is that most young investors either skip steps entirely, going straight to picking stocks before they've got an emergency fund, or they get the order wrong and potentially miss out on free money sitting right there in their employer plan. That's what this video is here to help with. Quick note before we get into it, this video is for educational purposes only. It's not personalized financial advice. Everyone's situation is different, so please consult with a qualified financial professional before making any decision specific to your own circumstances. Here's what I suggested to both of those clients' kids. The same 4 steps in a logical order, and what's interesting is that this isn't complicated. The hardest part isn't knowing what to do, it's actually doing it consistently. So let me walk you through the sequence, starting with step 1. And I'm going to explain why each step tends to matter before moving to the next one. The first question I always get is, how much should I put in my 401k? And the answer for step 1 is pretty straightforward. Contribute exactly enough to capture your employer match, not a dollar more at this stage. Here's why this tends to matter so much. Your employer match may represent an immediate 50 to 100% return on your money before the market does anything. It's hard to find an investment that beats that. So if your employer matches 50 cents on every dollar up to 6% of your salary, you'll generally want to contribute that 6% first every single time. I reviewed the plan of one of those clients' kids, 24 years old, earning around $55,000 a year. His employer offered a 3% match. Based on what we found, it appeared he may have been leaving roughly $1,650 per year on the table by not contributing enough to capture it. That's money that could potentially compound for 40 years. That one adjustment alone could meaningfully impact his long-term retirement outlook. So go into your 401k portal today and confirm you're contributing at least enough to capture your full employer match. That's step 1. Done. Now, some of you may be wondering, why does the emergency fund come before maxing out the Roth IRA? Because without a cash cushion, the first unexpected expense, a car repair, a medical bill, job transition, tends to derail everything. You could end up pulling from investments at exactly the wrong time. Your emergency fund doesn't need to be fancy. A standard checking or savings account at your bank tends to work just fine. The goal here isn't yield, it's accessibility and simplicity. 3 to 6 months of living expenses, liquid, ready to go. That kind of foundation may be what allows everything else to keep working. The second client's kid, she'd been putting money into a Roth IRA before she had an emergency savings built up. When her car needed repairs, she ended up pulling from that Roth account. Not only did she lose access to that potential compounding, but depending on how it was structured, there may have been tax implications to consider as well. Having a cash foundation in place first could potentially have prevented that situation entirely. Calculate 3 months of your basic living expenses, rent, utilities, food, transportation, and set that aside as your emergency fund target. Keep it in a simple, accessible account. Work toward it steadily before moving to step 3. Now, this is where it tends to get really interesting. Once you've got the match captured and the emergency fund in place, the next place your money may want to go is a Roth IRA. And if you're in your 20s, this account may be one of the most powerful financial tools available to you. Here's why your 20s tend to be a particularly good time to contribute to a Roth IRA specifically. You're likely in a lower tax bracket right now than you may be in your peak earning years. A Roth IRA lets you contribute after tax dollars now, meaning you pay taxes on the money before it goes in. And then in retirement, that money and all of its potential growth may come out completely income tax free. You're essentially looking at the opportunity to lock in today's lower tax rate on money that could potentially grow for 40 years. In 2026, you may contribute up to $7,500 to a Roth IRA if you're under 50. If you're 50 or older, and this is relevant for some of the parents watching, that limit may go up to $8,600 with the catch-up contributions. There are also income limits. So if you're a high earner, it's worth checking with a financial professional to confirm your eligibility. We worked together to open and fund Roth IRAs for both of those clients' kids. The conversation I had with each of them was similar. At 24 or 25, contributing $7,500 per year consistently and investing could potentially lead to a meaningful outcome by the time you reach traditional retirement age, and potentially all of it income tax-free. That's the kind of compounding that tends to be very difficult to replicate if you wait until later in life. Open a Roth IRA if you don't have one. Set up automatic monthly contributions so you're working toward that $7,500 annual limit. Even if you can't max it right away, starting the habit tends to matter more than the initial amount. If you've done steps 1 through 3 and you still have money left over to invest, first of all, that's a great position to be in. And step 4 is generally where that extra capital may want to go. A taxable brokerage account doesn't have the tax advantages of a 401k or Roth IRA, but it also doesn't have the contribution limits or the withdrawal restrictions. You can invest as much as you'd like, and you can access the money at any time. For goals that come before age 59 and a half, buying a home, starting a business, reaching financial independence early, a taxable brokerage account tends to offer a flexible and potentially effective option. What I've generally seen with families who've built meaningful wealth over time is that they tend to have all 3 buckets working: tax deferred in the 401k, tax free in the Roth, and taxable in a brokerage account. Each one tends to serve a different purpose. The brokerage account is often what may give them flexibility and options before traditional retirement age. Once steps 1 through 3 are funded, consider opening a taxable brokerage account and beginning to direct any additional savings there. Diversification in a long time horizon may give that money the best opportunity to compound. If this kind of straightforward financial content is helpful to you, go ahead and hit like and subscribe to this channel. I put videos out regularly on retirement planning, tax strategy, and building wealth, the stuff that actually matters. Let me bring this back to those 2 clients' kids I mentioned at the start. Both came to me at similar ages, similar incomes. The main difference was the order they were doing things. One was contributing to a Roth but didn't have an emergency fund and wasn't capturing the full employer match. The other had started building savings but hadn't opened a Roth at all. Neither one was wrong for trying. They just didn't have a sequence. Once we mapped out the 4 steps and automated each one, the plan became simpler and more self-sustaining. They didn't have to think about it anymore. They could leave it alone and let time do the potential work. In my experience, that kind of disciplined sequencing tends to be what may make the difference over 30 or 40 years. Here's the perspective I want to leave you with. Retirement may feel like it's so far away that it barely registers right now, and I understand that. But the research on compound growth tends to suggest that the decades between 25 and 65 may be where the majority of the wealth gets built. Not from picking the right stocks, not from timing the market, from starting early, following a consistent sequence, and staying the course. You've got something right now that your parents and their peers would likely trade almost anything for, and that's time. It may be worth using it. Now that you've got a sense of how to build your investment foundation, there's a risk that most investors, even experienced ones, tend to overlook completely. It's called sequence of returns risk, and it could potentially be one of the most significant threats to your retirement. Not how much you save, but when the market drops relative when you retire. In the next video, I walk you through exactly what it is, how it tends to work, and what families may consider doing to help protect against it. See you there. Before you go, If you'd like to take a broader look at your overall retirement readiness, I've got a pre-retirement readiness checklist available in the description below. It walks you through the key planning areas to help make sure nothing falls through the cracks. There's also a link to the Radiant Vest retirement calculator if you'd like to run your own numbers. Both are free, no strings attached. Links are below. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute personalized financial, tax, or legal advice. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Please consult with a qualified financial professional before making any financial decisions.